Hey everybody, welcome back to the Brohood Productions YouTube channel. That's fun to say sometimes. It is also the Hall of Justice podcast. Today we are going to be reviewing a film that I was pretty late to watch. It was released last year. I'm right about that at least. Need for Speed. I'm just kidding. It's Gran Turismo. That's what it says, and that's what we're talking about. We have my very good friend on today, Charlie Lee. We've been friends for a very, very long time. JP is a little bit late. We're going to let him slide. When he joins is when hopefully we will do our pop quiz. But because JP's not here, we're going to have a really awkward back and forth little situation here. So before we do anything, let's just get to know Charlie. Charlie, give us some info about you that you're willing to share and your love for the auto world of awesome.
Yeah, so I started working on cars. Well, I was like about 19, about 27 now. I got into racing around 2018. Did autocross for a little bit, and then I started doing the what they call NASA, which is a National Auto Association or some big group. They do it at local to us, Utah Motorsports Campus. So we'll go out there on a weekend and we do the big boy racetrack. So all the tight turns that you see in the movies. It's super cool. They also do like drag events. I think they're doing a drift event. I think they do rallycross too. I think, and then an amateur motorcycle racing goes out there too. So it's always there's always something related to cars or racing out there at all times. And they have a cool go-kart track out there too. So
That's pretty sweet, man. In the movie, the what's his name? David Harbour taught, I mean, who he's portraying talks about that moment where very few people can do it. There's like that moment of speed and like it's just like this mental space about how only a few people in the world can actually do this. And there's that moment that like charges you up and you're able to do the turn, the right switching of the gears, all that type of stuff. Have you experienced that? What is that like?
oh man, it's just like it's like when you're doing your favorite thing, right? You're just so focused and it's really all about feel and flow. Like if you can get into your flow of, your turns, changing your gears, it's and a lot of it's feelings. Like you feel with your bottom part of your butt. You feel a lot with your butt. The vibrations of the car, if you go over the curb. So it's a lot of feel, a lot of listening to your engine, you RPMs, you're going so fast. If you're thinking about it, it's already too late to do. So you just it's more like doing it on instincts and just like that instinctual like self-preservation type of thing. It's such a crazy feeling because everything else like kind of falls away. You're not really worried about, like you and I, we're not worried about bills or like what's tomorrow gonna be like, what I could fix, whatever. You're just so focused, and it's just such like a bliss type of feeling. Is
Oh,
the best way I can describe it.
it's awesome. It's awesome. Um, when when the movie came out, what was your like innate reaction to the film?
I was pretty late to watching it because I didn't actually get to go and see it in theaters. But when I my first time, I was like so hooked because it is based off like a true story, but there is some editors, and writing that makes it a little bit more dramatic, obviously to make it like a good film. But a lot of it comes down to some of it's actually real. Like there are bully type of drivers that will push the limit. They'll bump your car or they'll try to like bully you into making a mistake. And there's a difference. Like you can pressure somebody, like you can be right on their bumper and not like lack of a better word, be a douche about it. Like most drivers, we know when our driver's being a little dirty, and most drivers will give it back, but there's a line that shouldn't be crossed, and some drivers just they don't care. Their only goal is to win or to score as many points as they can, and they'll kind of bulldoze through anybody that's in their way.
Well, that triggers a memory from the film. I was kind of confused about the whole like Olympic type. So in the Olympics, there's this race where people are running and they hand the baton to the next runner, and the next runner goes. So it was weird in the movie to see that they had like three different people technically racing. So that was kind of confusing. Is that accurate? Like I always thought that there's always one racer for the entire race.
So there's different types of race. Like you have Formula One where it's just one driver, one car. Or Formula One, there's one team with two drivers. So they have two different cars on track. What they did in the movie is called endurance racing. So instead of racing for say 2 hours, you're racing for 12, 6, or so 6, 8, 12, or 24 hours. So it's a race about endurance. So how long you can go. Obviously, every driver had they put limits because I can't remember the year, but there was a case of a father and son doing Le Mans, and he drove 23 hours of Le Mans, and then his son took the last hour. So they technically still fell in the rules. But after that, because he was so tired, because it's such a grueling thing on your body. Because every time you hit the brakes, you're pulling lateral G's. So obviously, your head weighs how much ever it weighs. So when you hit the brakes, lateral G's pull your head down. That's why you see a lot of drivers have beefy necks. So you got to keep it up because if you look down as you're braking, you're gonna miss your turn and you're gonna go into the wall or the tire barrier or you're gonna hit another driver. So beefy necks. But yeah, endurance racing, you can only race a driver can only do 14 hours total. I think for 24 hours, and then it's less for however long the race is going to be. But yeah, drivers do change. That's the thing. Oh, they also change brakes and tires too.
I see. Yeah. What's the fastest car you've been able to drive?
Been able to drive is it's a GTR from the movie. That's
Well,
the fastest car I've driven. The fastest cars I've been in. Um, he's more known in like the car tuning kind of world and car racing. He does more drag stuff, but it's Brad from PPC. He holds, I think he's a two-time world record GTR holder on stock twin turbos. I think he's pushing like 1,000, 1,200 out of them or something like that. Something crazy. But when I first started getting into like more of like the mod kind of part of the car scene, he let me ride in his car, and it was like the craziest and best feeling I've had. It is like the craziest thing.
in this professional setting, can you tell us the fastest MPH you've ever gone?
120 miles an hour. As fast as I've gone in my personal car on the track. So like at UMC, they do three different configurations. They have east track, west track, and then they do outer loop. But they also when they do outer loop, they have a 6 hours endurance race throughout the night. So they start at like 12 p.m. and go to like 6 a.m. So they're racing through the night. But when they do that configuration, it's usually when they do the 6 hour enduro too. But the outer loop is the fastest configuration they have because it's on the top of my head, if I remember right, there's probably like four turns. If I'm remembering correctly, if I pull up an image in my mind of the configuration, I think there's like four or five turns. Other than that, it's literally just straight. So it's all gas, no brakes type of situation.
How often do you race?
I haven't raced in the last couple of years because due to financial situations, but I would like to get back into it. It is super super expensive.
Wow, okay.
Like
I
real
mean,
expensive.
yeah.
Like if I were to ballpark it right now for a 2 day weekend with the garage rental and the timing transponder you could get, it's probably like $1,200 a weekend.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, that's why a lot of people say it is a rich man's sport. Is it does take a lot of financial backing. You'll see with some teams, depending on whatever like series you like, teams that are more in the back of the pack, they'll normally take the driver with the more that has more financial backing than a driver who has more skill because they need that. So essentially, they just all the sponsors, you got the title sponsors and all these other sponsors. They put money into a pot for the team, and the team uses that to develop the car, try different aerodynamic situations. I mean, at least with Formula One, that's what they do. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same with every other pecking order of racing. It's going to be the same. They put money into a big pot. Team uses it for payroll, developing the car, make the car faster, upgrades, make the car more reliable, and just basic maintenance. If a car gets wrecked, they're essentially rebuilding the entire car because and racing is all about saving weight. So if you can save a gram, you're gonna save a gram. So like most race cars don't have AC. Like in our like everyday driving car, they don't have AC, they don't have a brake booster. So when they apply their brakes, they're applying their brakes with everything they got. They don't have a brake booster because that's extra weight in the car that doesn't need to be there. So anything that's not essential to the car comes out. And a lot of these high tech cars now you can do what they call brake biased. So you can change the brake percentage. So if you want it more brake heavy up front, you can change that. If you want more brake heavy in the rear, you can change that. And every driver likes something different turn by turn. So you can, the steering wheel, you can doop, 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 be done.
So I'm curious, since you're our car expert, is it about the car being light, or is it about the car's strength? Because my limited information, right? If you look at American Muscle, that torque type feeling is going to be very heavy, right? But
Mhm.
in a race, you want to be as fast as possible, which
So,
can create force, but like, what's the difference there?
so I mean, in a professional racing, you want as light as possible because there is a weight limit that your car can only has to weigh so much. You want to try to get to that number as close as you can get without going under it. If you go under, your car is what they call an illegal car. So your car will be disqualified from the race, or if it's been illegal for, say, 3 races, that car will be disqualified from all 3 races. So, teams try to get it down to as little as they possibly can, but there is a weight limit. Um, yeah, so you want weight, less weight, more power. So I mean, there's kind of like a balancing act. You want as much power as you can get, but you want reliable power. So like, you don't want your car to blow up on the first lap because then you don't finish. So you're not gonna like I don't know like Formula One, the first 10 positions score points. I'm guessing it's going to be the same because they all follow the same FIA bodily governing body. So I'm guessing it's going to be the same. The first 10 positions score points. So if your car is illegal in any way, they'll be disqualified. So the team will lose points because of that. So a team's not going to want to take that big of a risk to do that. But yeah, there are heavy regulations on because there've been cars that are super light, and if you put it into the wall, there's really no safety for the driver. 'Cause at the end of the day, people have died and will continue to die doing this sport. It is a very dangerous sport because you're going excess of 200 miles an hour. Cars don't stop on a dime, no matter how good your brakes are. You know, basic, physics. Once an object is in motion, it stays in motion. So that energy's got to go somewhere. And, a human body is not going to be able to resist that kind of force. Like a driver will experience 100 G's on in a racing crash.
Like being in space and underwater at the same time.
Oh yeah, yeah. On acceleration, a driver will experience more lateral G's than an astronaut taking off.
Wow. And that's why those in the movie, I think it's important. Of course, not I want to be careful how I say this. Like no one wants to see someone crash, right? No one wants
No,
to
no, no.
experience being in a crash. But I thought it was good for the movie to put that in there because they're trying to explain something to you. And to all the people doing the sport, we're always hoping that they're safe and that they're taken care of. But in this movie, they tackle the situation of loss of life and how he was trying to take responsibility for it's all my fault. But then they kept trying to tell him like, no, 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 this is just a part of what's happening. So in your experience, how is that like mitigating the sport? How do people like prepare for the worst, but also prepare against the worst?
So, I mean, like if you're coming to an event to spectate, there is a degree of risk because you are essentially on the racetrack with cars that are going excess of 200 miles an hour. You can build super tall fences. There's going to be in a 1 in a million chance that car hits something just right and goes flying over it. So, I mean, as a spectator, there is some risk going to an event. That's just a human psychology. I mean, the Nürburgring, it does have the nickname called the Green Hell because it is one of the most dangerous tracks in the world because most tracks that are built now are built in like more rural areas, so they have a lot more to work with. So they can build runoff areas, tire barriers. The Nürburgring, the Nordschleifer, you know, they don't have all that because it is literally built in the middle of a forest. It is called the Green Hell for a reason.
Hmm.
In the movie, you see him take off. They call that the airplane strip because there have been numerous cars that have taken that jump and just the amount of air that gets under your car, you can like an airplane. So they call it the airplane strip. That event has happened. That is based off a real event. I'm not sure 100% sure if it was the same driver, but that has happened where a car has gone up and over the fence and has killed a spectator. So there is some degree of risk going to a racing event. But if you love the sport, us drivers, we take that because you're essentially cheating death every time you're going out there. Like you're cheating death because you could hit a pebble just wrong, or somebody could just slightly tap your bumper just enough and send you sideways, careening into the barrier, flipping, all this crazy stuff. So there is some degree of risk, no matter if you're the driver or spectator. But that's just human psychology of, oh, I was in control when you're really not. Because if you're in the air, it's kind of just you hope for the best and you hope nobody gets hurt. Nobody wants that, obviously. But yeah, that's just human psychology. He wanted to take that blame because he felt like it was his fault, but it
Yeah,
really wasn't. And it was just a freak accident that has happened before.
yeah. What was your favorite aspects of this film? What did they do right? What did you
Oh,
like?
so there's a couple good parts, especially um when he's doing that 24 hours of Le Mans race and the that German driver crashes and burns, right? And he has that moment of, oh crap, again, he's having flashbacks of his own accident. Drivers, we do have that, if you do have a scary enough moment, it will shake your nerves. Like that's what that's what makes every driver human, is we do get scared. There I've had a couple of sketchy moments driving, but drivers are very different because like in professional sports, when you make a mistake, your coach tells you to put it in the back of your mind and keep going. You got to do the same thing because if you fixate on something, you're going to do it. So like when I first started, the advice I was given, if you say don't hit the cone, you're going to hit the cone because your body will follow your mind. So if that's why they always say look ahead when you're driving. Your body will follow your eyes. So if you look ahead and you see somebody braking, your initial reaction is to brake. So if you see it beforehand, you can come to a safer stop further along than people who aren't paying attention so much. That's the one good aspect of, like, your chief engineer is gonna know you because you guys spend so much time together because he's giving you data and you're giving him feedback to improve the car. It's all about improving the car. So the driver to chief engineer relationship, or however teams do it now, it is a super tight bond. Like like soldiers will say, these are my brothers of bond, right? They've gone through an experience together. They're bonded by that experience. It's the same thing with the driver and his engineer. It is so the fact that Jack knew to play Songman from Kenny G to get him chilled out and fired back up. You wouldn't really do that on a professional scene, like in a professional circuit, because other teams do use the same radio waves. So I mean, you're kind of blocking somebody else from doing the same thing. So that's the unrealistic part of it. You're gonna have your engineer be like, "Hey, snap out of it, focus, or push." You're gonna have uh, as little dialogue as you can to keep the radio wave as free as you can for other drivers to use. But that was my one favorite aspect of how he's just able to snap out of it and then get back into it, because it is a fight. It truly is a fight because you're going with these people. We're hyper competitive. We want to win. We're going to take as the edge if we can get it. It is what it is. It is a hyper competitive sport because it is also so cutthroat. If you're not performing, most teams will have a clause in your contract to cut you and replace you with another driver. So it is a very cutthroat business. It is a business at the end of the day. If you're not performing, a team's gonna drop you. So like the pressure. Now people say, "Oh, pressure is just an admin thing." It is, but I mean, when you have a team breathing down your neck, you're gonna feel the pressure of the team. Like, hey, you need to pick up your pace because you need to bring us results. Otherwise, we're gonna drop you as a driver.
What was what would you rate the movie out of 10?
Ooh, I'm gonna be a little harsh because there are some unrealistic scenes that happen in the film that wouldn't happen in real life. I'm gonna give it like a 7.
Okay.
And you know, I do watch the occasional film. It is a movie I would actually go out to the store and buy and own on DVD. It is a very good movie based on an actual true story of Jan actually being a GT sim driver and actually making it to an actual motorsports team and actually living out his dream. But yeah, I would give it a 7 because there's a couple scenes there that are unrealistic due to the FIA, the governing body, will crack down on certain actions heavily.
So, so like every type of race movie is going to be different, right? They're
Mhm.
going to be, especially when we're talking about films, because this is what this show is all about, is talking about films and also their implications and the impact of them. It's like Fast and Furious is very different, right? It's not the same thing.
Mm. Yeah, Fast and Furious has a different, yes, you would say like a different plot
Right,
because it started out as bringing recognition to street racing,
right.
which is something I did a long, long time ago before I had a kid and I was young and dumb. I wanted that adrenaline dump because at the end of the day, drivers were chasing that adrenaline because it is a huge adrenaline dump. So it's Fast and Furious started out as just recognizing street racing. Now, if you actually like follow the film, if you actually map it out on an actual California map, the 2 point where they actually race are on complete sides, opposite sides of one another, which is hilarious. But you wouldn't catch it if you weren't looking for it and knew California that well. I don't know California that well, but I just saw a video of somebody breaking it down. Like this street is on this side, and then the end of that street is on the opposite side of like the a couple roads down or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so every car movie and is going to have a different plot. Some are more focused on the street racing aspect. Now, Fast and Furious has went on in its own freaking route
Yeah.
of went from street racing to oh now we're going to pull off a heist.
Yeah.
So it's still one of the most popular movies out there. Don't get me wrong; they do have cool cars, and that's what originally got me into cars was Fast and Furious. The first one with Paul Walker and his Eclipse and whatnot, and then the iconic yellow orange Supra with the T top. So yeah, that's what originally got me into cars, and then ever since I just have loved. There's such a sense of peace when you're doing something you enjoy very much.
Right. Right. And I feel that because, Fast and Furious is its own thing. Like if you take Ford versus Ferrari, it's a completely different story. It's also based on a true story, different type of feel. I jokingly started off our show with talking about Need for Speed. They're trying to base it off of the video game. The video game in and of itself is fun, but the movie itself wasn't comparable to. And so finding this
Yeah.
like really good bridge with Gran Turismo, because it was about Gran Turismo's influence, but it wasn't necessarily like super based off of Gran Turismo. Of course, you get the sounds and you get the logo and essential pieces. But it's not like you're playing Gran Turismo, in my
Well,
opinion.
but if you actually played Gran Turismo, like I've played it a few times, it is a super as it's as close to realistic as you can get
Right.
for like a video game. Like there's more higher like there's iSim like these there's more realistic ones, but for the general market for what you're paying for a video game, let's just say like $70, right? Because the new Call of Duty is like $70. For $70 to get Gran Turismo is as realistic as you can get because you can really do go in there and change your suspension height, your brake bias, how your car sits, what kind of tires, how much air is in your tire, your brakes. The customization is so cool and so intricate that Gran Turismo only releases every it's not like a Call of Duty where it's released every year because they have to go in and they have to like scan these cars, drive these cars, get a feel for these cars, and then put all these the little details into it. Like they don't have every single car in the world because literally be impossible. The memory on that game would be outrageously big.
Yeah.
But they do have the more popular ones. Like I don't know, they don't have Mazda Speed, which is what I drive, but they do have a Ford ST, which is probably the closest you can get make for make because basically Ford did own Mazda for a long time, and so they do have influence on when Mazda produced the Mazda Speed. It is essentially a Ford car, so that is as close as I could get. Made exactly as how my car is set up, and I drove that thing, and it is so for what it is, it's very realistic.
Well, yeah, yeah. The video game itself, yes. The film for me, like I know that for JP and he can speak to it by himself. He really thought that the movie mirrored the game. I feel like the movie stood by itself with homage to the game, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know if you've seen Ford versus Ferrari. There's a quote that says Christian Bale says to his boy in the movie, "Can you see the line?" Most people, like Jack says in the movie, there's a small percentage that can actually do this. There is, in a sense, a trance of you can see. Obviously, it's an imaginary line, but you can see a line through it because and if you really break it down, it's just basic geometry, right? Or basic math of and physics and whatever it is, if you really want to break it down to its, minute detail. But yeah, you can essentially see a line because you can I don't know if you actually ever watch like a professional race, how most cars are stacked one behind another. So they're all following a similar line because that is the optimal for them, right? And every driver has their own little apexes that they like or they don't like, So like that part of Jan seeing his little like red line come out from the normal racing line, that is essentially just them visualizing seeing a different line is the best way I can put that into words. That
Yeah.
is visualizing you seeing a different line.
Yeah, when I've watched NASCAR, it's interesting to see like how many of them are like super close to each other. And then, they're doing this the entire time. And sure, you get like the couple
Oh,
of the leaders who are faster than everybody else. Um, do you have a favorite Gran Turismo game?
uh, it's part of the latest one, so it's probably seven is my most favorite one because it's I mean they've modernized it, so there's more variety. Like you said, like when NASCARs they follow each other, essentially there's so the front car will essentially, when you driving through air, air has density. So the front car is usually punching a hole. And like if you really follow like visually, there's no way to see it, but if you like take your car into like a wind tunnel, there's a little pocket of air behind the car that's punching through the air. And every driver knows what it is. We call it a tow because you're essentially giving the car behind you a tow because their car is not having to work so hard to punch through air. So essentially they're gaining speed and at the last second, once they get in that pocket, they'll break off and overtake you. So when you see all these drivers like following one another, yeah, they're trying to stay in the toe of the car in front of them so they can get the most speed possible.
I have yet to play Gran Turismo 7. I have really wanted to, especially with the actual driving simulation, not just on the
Yeah,
analog.
yeah, you definitely, if you do, you gotta do it with the steering wheel because it is a very different experience doing it on the controller versus actually having a physical steering wheel and doing the motions, going back
Yeah.
and having the pedals. Yeah,
That's
it's a
why
very different feeling.
that's why for me, Gran Turismo 3 is our favorite because we had the PlayStation 2 driving steering wheel and it was fun. It was really, really fun. And I remember when we would try to do one of the rally races, it was a lot harder because you're on sand and you're just like, I can't do this.
Yeah, so rally is a whole different set of driving skills in general because you're combining very different driving styles. So you're essentially putting driving fast on a road with dirt road and you're combining a regular driving style and you're adding drifting to it because to turn on a sharp hairpin you're going to have to swing the butt of the car out to get your car lined up perfectly. So rally drivers, I salute them. They're on a whole different level because they have mastered all different types of driving styles because and like rally drivers, so in rally cars there's the driver itself and then what they call a co-driver. So the co-driver's job is just to navigate for the driver. So like if you ever hear them they're like 100 flat right, like I mean they have a code that you know like but still, yeah, it is like it is not on a normal racetrack. Like it is in the country, like it goes from gravel to dirt to freaking mud. Yeah, so it is a very different driving style. It is a very unique driving style because you got to be able to do, you know, track racing and then oh, there's dirt. Now I got to be able to drift a car. So it is a mastery of it is a jack of all trades, master of none type of driving style.
Yeah. Um, if you could own any car, what would it be?
Oh, oh, that's a trick question, man. Any car in the world. It would have to be a 1999 Skyline GTR R34. And this
1993?
1999.
1999.
Yeah, it is the is it Too Fast Too Fierce, the blue Skyline from
Oh
the
yeah.
Paul Walker pulls up in.
Yep.
Yeah, that is it right there. That is
Yeah.
if I could have one car in the world, that would be it.
That's awesome. That's a good car right there. Everybody has an opinion and I get that, but with your expertise, is it about American Muscle? Is it about Asian brand? Like what what sticks out more to you?
I've always been a tuner. So like if you break it down, there's the domestic and tuners are more of the Asian cars, like the little four cylinders. We call them in the car culture the four bangers because they're only four cylinders. If you talk to a muscle guy, oh yeah, you're missing four cylinders. Yeah, I get it. Everybody has their own taste. Everybody likes their own thing. There's recently there's been a lot of hate in the car culture. It's just kind of why I stopped going to car meets because everybody's all like, my car is better, my car is this, my car is that. And good for you. Like that's what you like, that's what you like. But you don't need to walk around bragging. People don't need to be hating on cars. Everybody has their own taste. I personally don't like stance cars because they just look some look great, don't get me wrong. If you put enough money into it and you actually know what you're doing, they look fantastic. They look great. For me, my personal taste, it's not something that I like.
Yeah.
But I also don't walk around like, oh, your car's ugly kind of thing. Like, if you like it, more power to you, buddy. Like that it is what everybody has their own taste. I've always liked tuners. That's all I've ever driven are tuners. Like all the cars I've ever owned have been four cylinders. I've driven a couple of, muscle cars in my time. I still prefer tuners because to me the power to weight is a lot better because you have less weight in a tuner than you do in a muscle because now these new muscle cars they have less weight, yeah, but if I were to own a muscle car it'd be like in the 70s or 80s muscle car like the 79 Mustang from John Wick. That would be a muscle car I would own, yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
of
I
those.
love the look of, the 65s, the 69s.
Because
Yeah.
those are still frames. So if you're hitting something, there's gonna be no damage to that thing because that is a steel frame.
Yeah.
That's why they need so much more torque than a tuner car because most tuner cars are just much plastic bits. There's essentially is a steel frame, but everything else around it is just you know plastic.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
cuts the weight down.
I think, and I don't know if it's just because I'm not super acquainted with the culture. Like I like when someone can tune stuff up, make something look nice. And there are certain sounds of the engine roaring that sound really nice, really beautiful, really attuned. But then there are some times when you're out in the street and some guy goes, I'm like, what is that?
Oh, so, does it sound like like the coffee gargling in
Yeah,
like the pot?
yeah,
So those are that's when somebody cams a car. So essentially, you're taking your old cam out and putting a bigger lobe cams in, so that gives you that like guttural sound. So
yeah,
that's more like a muscle thing. I've seen tuners do it too. So I mean, it is what it is. People do it is mostly for performance because so you can more finely tune your cam so you can like have different size lobes and like that'll trigger how often your valves come down and whatnot. So I mean there's a whole bunch of like getting into actually tuning. It is a whole different world. It is like a very different world because you're changing like I don't know. So the the ideal air to fuel ratio is 14 to 1. So you want 14 parts fuel, 1 part air. So to get that mixture is consistently is very hard, especially like if you across the lower 48 states, our elevation changes are very, very different state to state. So to keep it consistent, and then in a perfect world, yes, everything would be, 14, but by one. In real world, you can get pretty close to it consistently, but at that point you're running high octane fuel. Like you're running essentially racing gas or rocket fuel and those type of cars. Like they need that higher burning gas for them to keep up with the power because the bigger the explosion, the more horsepower do you get out of it.
a lot, yeah. Man, there's a huge science to cars that's like really cool, really kind of genius level intellect.
Oh
So
yeah, I mean, if you really want me to, I can send you when my tuner did my car. I can send you the what he did, what he's changed. If you want that, I can send it to you. You can put it in the podcast later. But yeah, essentially, like, I don't. So for me, from my experience, my car, what they call it, is an access port. So it's essentially just like it's an ECU standalone in a sense. You hit a button, you do your, fourth gear pull, you stop it, you do a couple of those, and then you come to your computer, plug it in, you take that data off of it, put it into email file, and you send it to the dude. And then a couple days later, he does all the adjustments, and he'll send you back a different tune or a different. We call them maps. And then you take that map from your computer, put it on your thing, and then you go plug it in your car, let your car download the map into your computer, your engine computer, and then it changes the tune. So like, let's just make it super basic. So you can pull timing. So essentially you retard the timing. So you pull timing so you can get a more delayed explosion so you can get more fuel in there, or you can advance timing so timing comes sooner so you get less of a big explosion but you get it more often. So it's a give or take. So do you want, if you're going end goal is big power, most times you're going to retard timing a little bit just to get a bigger explosion because you're trying to get as much fuel crammed into that combustion chamber as you can get, and then have that big explosion to make more power.
Man, it's just cool. It's just cool.
Yeah,
Reminds me
it
of
is
all, it just reminds me of
like,
all these like scenes where people are like going really fast on a motorcycle or in a car.
yeah. It is a very, well, when I was tuning my car, it is a very surreal experience of like my tuner knows my platform so well that when he's looking at my data, he could tell, oh, you're having a cylinder four misfire, or your fuel injectors are dirty. Like it is crazy the amount of detail and data that they can interpret to, oh, this is what's going on with your car. And that dude doesn't even live in my state. He doesn't even live in Utah. He's somewhere else. So the fact that he's able to, okay, yeah, like this is what's going on with your car, change this, and this. It is such a like, I was like, whoa. Like I was like genuinely shocked by it because I've been diagnosed with a car for years. And sometimes I can't even figure out why a car is doing what it is. But this, like when I had that experience, I'm like, wow, data really does show what a car, what happens to it versus a healthy car versus a crappy car, that's having a bunch of problems. If you look at the data, it'll show you in the data itself what's going on. So to interpret that is a different set of skills I have yet to master.
Eventually, what's like the end goal with racing for you to be able to have the financial capability to coach, to build? Like what is it that I guess a lot of racers end up doing?
Well, I mean, it's different for driver to driver. I would like to get back into it just as like a weekend hobby, kind of a weekend warrior type of thing. If I could make it into a career, cool. I feel like I'm too old, but I mean, nothing's ever impossible. But I would like to have, a professional racing career for sure. Like that, I think that'd be the coolest job in the world. You're traveling the world, you're racing on all these cool racetracks. But end goal for me right now in the next couple years, just build my current car and get up to 550 wheel horsepower and just cruise along, just, I don't know. If that opportunity is given to me, I am taking that 100%. If somebody walks up to me tomorrow and be like, hey, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to travel the world and race cars, I'm like, yep, sign me up. I will quit my job right now and I will go do that for you.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it's definitely there is a small percentage that can actually do it, and then a smaller percentage that can do it at such a high level is even it's an even smaller percentage because most drivers will rotate out a couple years. Like right now, like in Formula One speaking, Lewis Hamilton's the greatest of all times. Essentially, people will argue Michael Schumacher's out there too. He is for his era, but for the current era, it is Lewis Hamilton. He's a 7-time world champion, and he has been nothing but dominant in those 7 years. Recent years, not so much, but every dynasty has a fall. Like the Roman Empire did come crumbling down at some point. The Mercedes Lewis Hamilton dynasty was and was going to crumple at some point.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time. I think for him, I think he's going to do maybe another couple years of racing. I think he's going to retire and get into fashion. I think that's what his end goal is. It's different for every driver. For me, I would just like to do on the weekends, just something that I enjoy doing. That adrenaline dump you get from racing somebody else.
So just getting into the fun questions here. Well, they've all been fun, right? Just transitioning into a little bit more relatable situation. You're the racer, so you would beat anyone. But the three of us here on the show, once JP shows up, who would really win? Like if we got to go in a physical car, I guess who would come in second and third place?
Oh, I don't know, because I don't know what you drive, man. Like I know what JP drives. He drives a Forerunner. I don't know what you drive, man. But
I
what do
drive
you drive?
a Hyundai Sonata Sport.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Honestly, if I'm being realistic, probably my car because I have put an upgraded turbo in it.
Yeah,
So I'm probably like right now to my wheels probably like 290 to 300 because you there is a percentage loss from the crank to your actual wheels. So I'm probably like 290 to 300 ballparking it because I haven't put it on a dyno, so I'm not 100% sure on my numbers.
yeah,
So out of the three of us, obviously I would come first.
yeah,
Ooh, that's hard between you and JP because JP has the V8 in his,
yeah.
but the JP car does way more. Ooh, that'd be like a close. Ooh, that'd be. I would say JP second, you third. But it's gonna be like neck and neck. Like that
Well,
is such a like
we went to Boondocks when I guess Boondocks was open because I guess Boondocks is closed now for some reason.
so
Uh,
from my understanding, I think they're remodeling the one closest to us,
yeah,
and then I think there's another one open what in Springville or something,
yeah,
somewhere crazy far.
yeah.
I don't know.
So we in the Boondocks that we would used to go to, there is this big driving simulator. And I remember because it's all manual stick shift. And I was so close to beating JP. I came in second, but it was such an interesting experience because you have your little own screen here, but everybody else can see the race like up here, and I was going to win. He bumped me.
As Dom Toretto was said, winning's winning.
Yep,
But I mean, like to bump somebody at that's such like a line that is very hard to distinguish if it's on purpose or not.
right, right.
Like the FIA, like in Gran Turismo or in most professional sports, there is going to be like a governing body, an unbiased group of people that will look like what people a lot of people don't know is the governing body has control can request and a team cannot deny, but they can request data from the car so they can see your steering angle of if you're in a turn, how much steering angle you're giving. And for the non-racers, it's how much you're turning the steering wheel. Um, so they can break it down second by second. So if there's a collision between two drivers, right? They can get that set of data for both cars and they just interpret that data. Okay, who turned first? Who has the more steering angle? Did he unintentionally turn or did he intentionally turn? Because I mean, most these cars are going to have cameras inside the cockpit too. A lot of it's for spectators to see in the car to get the feel of it when you're not really feeling the because a camera can only pick up so much. You're not really feeling and seeing how fast the car is really going. But they can see, oh, okay, he's holding at this angle, and then he just goes whoop, and then that's intentional. So he's going to be And the problem I have with the FIA is they're not consistent with their ruling. Every track is different. I get that, but the rules are set in place for a reason. Either you stick to them or you don't. And then if you're not going to stick to them, change them. You know, make it broad, make it less broad, whatever you want to do. But every driver will know. And then in the heat of a moment, like all the adrenaline, all the emotions, they're like, "Oh yeah, he did it on purpose." It's sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's just it's really hard to tell because one driver feels one way and another driver feels another way. So the governing body is to be essentially the mediation between the two guys to come to a somewhat civil agreement. Sometimes drivers get real heated, other drivers aren't. You know what I mean?
Would JP get heated? Do you see JP getting heated in our race?
I don't know. Like maybe. JP doesn't seem like that type of person to get super heated about something
I
like
got
that.
you. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he was known as the Hulk when we did wrestle together. So
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a
listen, I don't know.
possibility.
It is in the realm of possibilities of him getting heated. Yeah, for sure.
Good. So this has been amazing. It's been great having Charlie on the show. We're really happy here at Brohood Productions to have you on, Charlie. JP, unfortunately, is not going to be able to make it. We're just going to wrap up now. We usually don't play games without JP, but this has just been something that I've been wanting to do specifically with you because this makes most sense on this show. So with JP, and when we have a guest on, we play some sort of game. And the game that I've been coming up with has been like a pop quiz type thing. So 2 episodes ago, when we sat down with our good friend Owen, we had a Batman pop quiz. So I
Okay.
really like seeing like JP's face and how he reacts to the questions, especially when he's not prepared for them, because yeah, it's a pop quiz. So since we haven't played a game in a while, I'm getting permission to just play this game, and you're gonna have to answer the questions, Charlie. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What year did the Honda Civic release? A,
Oh,
1970, B, 1972, C, 1994, or D, none of the above?
1970.
The correct answer is B, 1972.
Oh, what? Dang. Well, I've also been out of the Honda game for a long time.
It's all right. It's all right. These are just fun questions. We're not playing for anything specific. What year was the Mustang shared with the general public? Was it A, 1961, B, 1967, C, 1964, or D, none of the above?
I'm gonna say 1964.
Yeah, good job.
So I
Nice.
feel like that's when Ford v Ferrari released their first Mustang was in that movie.
What year was Kia Corporation founded? A, never. B, Kia Corporation, what is that? C, 1944, or D, 1939?
Well, my car enthusiast answer is gonna be C. What is that? Because Kia shouldn't. I love all cars, don't get me wrong, but Kia is one of those brands of why? Why did you? Why is this a thing? Um, what is it like 1967?
It's
Is
1944.
wow, they're real late to the manufacturing game. Yeah, no wonder nobody
Kia is
likes
an
them.
interesting brand. Kia is an interesting brand. All
You know,
right.
it's just a sister company of
Honda.
Hyundai. Yeah.
All right, this one's the fun one. This is one of the bonus questions. What used to be JP's favorite Nissan?
JP, as in like your brother JP.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even know this. Out of what Nissan? Out of which ones?
Out of all of them.
Oh,
The original car that JP used to love was the Nissan 350Z.
really?
Yeah, when we were growing
That
up,
was.
as
I was
teenagers,
figuring
that
to
was the
be like
car.
a freaking Nissan Frontier or something.
Because later when we got into high school, it was the Nissan Skyline GTR.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
better taste.
yeah, but
I mean,
originally
350
it was
is
the 350Z.
they're not bad cars, don't get me wrong. Like it's definitely they're a fun car to drive. But there is a lot of issues with the VQ motor.
Yeah.
I will say that for sure. If you're gonna buy it as a drift car and just this is gonna be your rinky dinky drift car, it's definitely a good starter drift car. You just cut off the fenders, cut off whatever you need to cut off to get the most steering angle, and just send it.
All right, this is the final question. This doesn't necessarily have to do with racing or the best car. This is a generic consensus. There is a generic consensus of the top five Asian car brands. Who is number one? We have A, Nissan, B, Toyota, C, Hyundai, four, Mazda, or five, Honda.
Let's go B Toyota.
Toyota. It's the most generically consensus best of the five big car Asian brands.
Toyota, they're definitely built. They're over engineered. I would say this. Now, if you compare like a German car to an Asian car and how they're designed and engineered, German cars are designed to last up until the warranty fails or until your warranty expires, and then things start to break. Now, with German engineering, they're designed within like certain specs. Like so, if you exceed it, break things break. Toyota, these things are over engineered, like with the driver in mind of, yeah, they may or may not use it for this, but we're going to design it for said use, or we're going to design this as someone just going to slap a freaking eBay turbo on this thing and then try to send a piston to the moon type of thing. Like Toyota are definitely over designed for a daily driver for
Yeah.
sure, but they are definitely bulletproof. You can run that thing with no oil for a couple of days and it would still run. You just throw oil in it, just yep, it's good as new.
Charlie, again, thank you so much for sitting down with Brohood Productions. Is there a phrase that you want to leave the general public with?
There's so many good ones. So many good ones. I'm just gonna say be like Max Verstappen and just send it up the inside, man. Just bomb it. Just that's how you're gonna have to live your life. Just don't let fear lead you. Just or the Han quote of the year. Life is just a bunch of choices. You
Yeah.
make them, you don't ever look back.
There you go. There you go. Wise words. Wise words. Wise words. Everybody, thank you. Please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll catch you next time. Brohood out.